Most men don't fall apart because of one big mistake. They fall apart slowly, by staying upright on the outside while eroding on the inside. You keep showing up. You keep paying the bills. You keep doing what needs to be done, and everyone assumes you're fine. But something quiet has started to slip. You're not reckless. You're not lazy. You're not weak. You're tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. You're distracted in a way rest doesn't solve. You feel heavier, not in your body, but in your mind. At this stage of life, the danger isn't collapse, it's drift. Drifting from your standards, drifting from the man you once respected, drifting into a life that functions, but no longer feels solid. What keeps a man standing isn't intensity. It isn't motivation. It isn't a burst of inspiration. It's something quieter, something less visible. A small, unglamorous commitment to not letting himself slide, even when no one is watching. This isn't about becoming more aggressive. It's about becoming more anchored. Because the men who last aren't the loudest or the most driven. They're the ones who learned how to stay upright when everything around them slowly leans toward comfort. The slow slide doesn't begin with bad habits. It begins with small negotiations. You stop doing the hard thing just for today. You tell yourself you'll get back to it tomorrow. You lower the bar, not because you want to, but because you're tired of carrying it. At first, nothing breaks. Life keeps moving. Responsibilities still get handled. That's why it's dangerous, because every quiet compromise feels reasonable in the moment. Skipping the workout, letting the late nights stretch a little longer, ignoring the discomfort you use to face directly. None of it looks like failure, but slowly, your internal standards soften. What used to be non-negotiable becomes optional. What used to define you becomes inconvenient. You don't notice the change right away. You adapt to it. And one day you realize the problem isn't discipline, it's identity. You're no longer living as the man you expect yourself to be. You're living as the man who takes the easier path. Quietly, consistently. This is how a man loses his footing. Not by falling down, but by allowing himself to lean until standing upright feels unfamiliar. At some point, motivation stops showing up. Not because something is wrong with you, but because motivation was never built for this stage of life. Motivation runs on novelty, on excitement, on the promise that things will feel good after you start. But after 40, life doesn't offer that luxury. You're not starting from zero. You're carrying weight, history, responsibility, consequences. Your energy is divided. Your attention is stretched. Your margin for error is smaller. So waiting to feel ready becomes a trap. Motivation asks, do you feel like it today? And most days, the honest answer is no. That's where most men get stuck. They mistake the absence of motivation for a lack of discipline. But discipline at this stage isn't force. It's structure. It's deciding in advance what kind of man you are going to be, and removing the need to debate it every morning. You don't rise because you're inspired. You rise because that's what you do. You don't move your body because you feel energetic. You move because not moving has a cost you can no longer afford. This is the quiet shift. From chasing motivation to building systems that carry you even when you feel flat, distracted, or tired. That's not giving up passion. That's choosing durability. When motivation is gone, what keeps a man standing is not strength. It's alignment. Alignment between what he says matters and what he actually does, especially on ordinary days. A man doesn't stay upright because he feels disciplined. He stays upright because his life is built in a way that makes sliding harder than standing. His days have shape. His mornings have a beginning. His evenings have an ending. Not because he is rigid, but because he respects his own limits. What keeps him steady are decisions made long before the moment of weakness arrives. He doesn't rely on willpower at night. He set the boundary in the morning. He doesn't argue with himself when energy is low. The decision was already made when his mind was clear. This kind of discipline doesn't look impressive. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't post quotes or chase intensity. It looks boring from the outside. But boring is stable, and stable is powerful. Over time, these quiet structures do something important. They restore self-trust. A man begins to believe himself again, not because he feels confident, but because his actions are consistent, and consistency rebuilds identity. This is how a man stops drifting, not by forcing himself to care more, but by designing his life so that caring less doesn't knock him off his feet. Standing at this stage of life is not an act of heroism. It's the result of many small choices that refuse to let comfort decide his direction. The habits that keep a man standing are rarely the ones people notice. No one claps when he goes to bed on time. No one praises him for eating simply. No one sees the discipline in turning the phone off or walking away from noise he doesn't need. There is nothing dramatic about these choices. That's why most men underestimate them. But quiet habits compound. They protect his energy. They preserve his attention. They prevent small cracks from becoming structural damage. A man who lasts doesn't try to optimize everything. He tries to remove what weakens him. He eats in a way that doesn't drain him. He sleeps in a way that allows recovery. He limits conversations that leave him irritated or empty. Not because he is antisocial, but because his margin is thinner now. At this stage, discipline becomes subtraction, less stimulation, less chaos, less tolerance for habits that slowly erode him. This kind of life doesn't look exciting. It looks quiet, predictable, almost invisible. But invisibility is a form of strength. Because when life applies pressure, and it always does, the man with quiet habits doesn't scramble. He doesn't need to reinvent himself. He doesn't look for motivation. He returns to what already holds him together. This is how stability is built, not through intensity, but through consistency that no one sees until it's missing. Standing doesn't feel heroic. Most days it feels ordinary, repetitive, unnoticed. There is no moment where everything suddenly clicks. No applause, no clear finish line. There is only the daily decision to not let yourself slide, to get up when comfort whispers, to move when stillness would be easier, to choose restraint when no one would blame you for letting go. This is not about becoming exceptional. It's about remaining intact, because life doesn't usually destroy a man all at once. It wears him down, quietly, patiently. And the men who stay standing aren't the ones who fight hardest in public. They are the ones who protect their foundation in private. They don't wait to feel strong. They act in ways that keep them strong. They don't ask if it matters. They behave as if it does, every day. Over time, this creates something deeper than confidence. It creates self-respect. And self-respect is what keeps a man upright when motivation fades, when energy is low, when no one is watching. Standing is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is chosen, again and again and again.
She's come tonight, you. Plenty stars, broken hearts.